Hi y'all and welcome back to the channel. Today we have another super interesting topic for you guys, and we're going to be discussing a really useful bit of functionality in Solidity, and that is the concept of factories. So what do we actually mean by a factory? So what the factories allow us to do in Solidity is to actually deploy smart contracts from other smart contracts. So if you have a look in our Remix IDE, here we have a simple contract defined for lamp. So lamp has two state variables, one for owner, one for model, and these are defined using our constructor function initially. So we pass in our owner and we pass in a string for our model for this given lamp. So if you notice here, we also have another shell contract for lamp factory. So this is the contract we're going to use to actually illustrate the factory functionality. So what we're going to begin with is by actually defining an array. We're going to make this a public array, and it's going to store our different instances of this lamp contract that we're going to deploy from our lamp factory contract. So we're defining the type here. So the type is lamp, it's a public array, and we're calling it lamps. So we're going to create a function to actually add to our lamp array. So it's going to take in a string, it's going to be stored in memory, we're going to call it in. It's going to be a public function, and it's not going to return anything. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new instance of the lamp contract using this syntax. So we begin by using lamp. We're going to give it a name for this new temporary variable. So it's going to be lmp equals new lamp. This is where we actually pass in what we need. So we have a look at our constructor function above. We're just going to pass in an address. So in this instance, it's going to be msg.sender, and for whoever is actually calling this particular function, and it's going to give it a model. So we're going to call this model one lamp. Perfect. And this actually creates a temporary instance of a lamp contract. What we're going to do now is actually add this to our lamps array. So we're going to say lamps dot push lmp, and we're going to save this function, and we can now see it in action. So what we're going to do is we're going to deploy our lamp factory. And we're going to actually we're going to pass in a variable. Sorry, I made a slight little typo here. I'm going to actually just cut this out and reference our in input. So if we save this, we're going to redeploy this contract. And we're going to pass in this variable. So model one lamp. And as you can see, this creates a new instance of the lamp contract. And we can see this here. If we go to 0 index, it actually returns an address. So that's how to use a factory at a very high overview. What we're also going to have a look at in this video is how do we actually get the model name given that we have an address. So it might not be very obvious how to do this, but we're going to create another function. We're going to call it get model. It's going to take in a uint. We're going to call this index. It's going to be a public function. It's going to be a view function because all we are is just returning a string, and it's going to return string and memory. Okay, initially what we're going to do is we're going to define an address function, address variable. So this is a temporary variable, and it's going to reference the lamps. It's going to reference the lamps array, and it's going to take in our index. So it's underscore index to actually match our input. And we need to wrap this with the address function to actually convert it to the correct type of variable. And what we can now do is we can get it to return lamp. So we wrap it around the lamp kind of function, pass in our address, and now we can actually reference what we want to retrieve. So in our case, we're interested in our state variable, which is the model. So we open brackets, semicolon, and we can save this. And what we're actually going to do is we're going to define this as a variable. So we're going to call this temp lamp equals we're going to have this return the temp lamp temporary variable, and if we save this, it looks like we have a little bit of an error. We can have a look. Yep, sorry, that should be actually a string. So we'll call this memory. And now it's in the correct format. And if we redeploy our contract, we'll delete this instance. We can see that if we create a new lamp, we'll call this model Y lamp. We can create another one called model X lamp, and we're going to create a model P lamp. Delete this, and now if we actually get them, we can call our get model function. So let's say for our second index, which correlates to 1, it will now return to model X lamp, which is actually our state variable, which is defined above, and we're actually referencing it here. So just to wrap up, we began by defining our address from our lamps index, and then we pass this address into a new variable for a new temporary string variable, which calls the dot model method to referencing this state variable up above. So that's it, pretty much it for today's video, guys. Hopefully this was useful to you. As always, if you could like and subscribe to the channel, it really does help me out. But until the next time, thank you very much.